I was skinny for my whole life. No matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't put on weight and build more muscle. This was such a problem for such a long time for me until I came across what I'm about to teach you today. If you watch this video in full, you'll get the full guide of how you can bulk up in 2025 and no longer be the skinny kid. Firstly, I want to talk about my story. Bulking allowed me to take my physique from here, which was about a year and a half ago, to here, which is how it is right now. This physique transformation wouldn't have been possible without bulking, and I'll go into the strategies and the exact diet, workout, and extra tips that I used to get there. So if you want to replicate my result and do it even faster than I did, then keep listening. Secondly, I want to discuss the perfect diet. There are a lot of people online that suggest the idea that bulking is just eating a bunch of dirty, unhealthy, sugary foods, which will cause you to put on a lot of weight. Yes, you might be able to build more muscle with it, but it will make you unhealthy, fat, and every time you look in the mirror, you won't feel proud of the physique that you've built, not to mention how bad you'll feel on a daily basis. So, what I recommend to everyone is lean bulking. Lean bulking is the better brother version of dirty bulking. It's eating the same healthy, clean foods that you are eating right now, but just adding more protein and carbs to that diet so you can put on more weight and build more muscle. Because it makes perfect sense. If you're trying to build more muscle, why are you eating a bunch of sugar and fat? That's not going to help you build muscle because everyone knows that protein is what helps you build more muscle. So instead of eating a bunch of sugar and fats, by prioritizing eating extra complex carbohydrates and protein, you put on weight and you build muscle. You're just eating the two macronutrients that you need to be able to bulk up effectively, and you'll minimize your fat gain. As with any process, you will put on a bit of fat because after all, you are bulking up, but it'll be so minimal that you'll be able to lose it in less than a week after you completed your bulking cycle. And the great thing about lean bulking is you don't need to time it. You don't need to do it for 3 months and then cut for 3 months. Because when you cut, you're losing a lot of the progress that you made on the bulk. You might have built up a lot of muscle, but as soon as you do these violent cuts to lose the fat that you've built up because you were eating dirty foods, you'll end up losing a lot of the muscle that you spent so much time and put in so much effort into building. So if you're lean bulking and you're just eating the healthy foods which are helping you to get to your goal of building extra muscle, then you'll just have muscle without the fat and you won't have to do any violent cuts and you'll make more gains in the long run. So all you have to do is just eat 300 to 400 calories on top of your maintenance, which is how much you're eating right now to maintain your current weight. Add 300 to 400 calories on top of that of healthy foods. You might not always be able to do this. You might need to eat a slightly unhealthy meal every once in a while, but 90% of the time I want you to stick to a clean and healthy diet, and this will allow you to build the most amount of muscle and reduce fat gain, so you'll be able to get big and strong without sacrificing your health or losing muscle later down the line when you have to cut. So this is how you should train when you're on a bulk. There are two different methods of training. There is training for strength, which I'm sure you all know about, and then there's actually training for hypertrophy. So what is the difference between these two methodologies of training? In short, training for strength prioritizes low rep sets, so sets that are 3 to 5 reps, but heavy weight. This will help you be more strong, however, it won't build more muscle. You'll be able to lift more, however, you won't build more muscle, you won't look more attractive. It will just lead to you being stronger, which is maybe what you want. However, if you're bulking, you're trying to put on that physical, like visible muscle mass. So training for strength doesn't actually help us here. Instead, I suggest that you train for hypertrophy, which is when you do higher rep sets of 10 to 12 reps, 3 sets per exercise, and you train to failure. So every single set, your muscle basically dies. I mean, obviously that's an exaggeration, but it's simply just on your last rep, you can't do any more. You've pushed your muscle to as far as it can go. And this is how you know that you've reached hypertrophy and maxed out your muscles. And this is how you'll build the most amount of visible size and muscle. So remember, train for hypertrophy and not just strength. I just want to touch on some common mistakes that I see a lot of people making, including myself, when we start our bulking journeys. Firstly, you don't actually know how much you're eating. You have this vague idea in your head of, oh, maybe everyone has this internal calculator. We'll look at a meal, maybe it's salmon, rice, and some broccoli. And we think, oh, that's 500 calories. But maybe it's not. Depending on how large the meal is, right? It could be 800 or it could also be 300. We have no idea. So by just guessing in our heads, we're not actually accurately tracking our calories and we might not be eating enough to actually be gaining weight. So this is why you have to track your calories for at least 2 to 4 weeks at the start of your journey. If you want to continue doing it long term, great. That's also good. However, if you don't track your calories at all, you won't build up that internal intuition and you won't be able to tell how much calories are in this meal, in that meal, and you might end up overeating or undereating, and you won't build muscle and put on size. You might actually be losing weight. Secondly, you're not getting in enough protein. You need to be getting 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. This is a non-negotiable. I understand that some days, maybe you're on holiday, you might not be able to hit your protein goal. And although that isn't optimal, there's nothing you can really do about that. However, when you're at home, when you have a supermarket available, you have to be hitting that protein goal. If you're 120 pounds, you need to be getting 120 grams of protein. If you're 150 pounds, 150 grams of protein. This is a non-negotiable and it's vital and so important for building muscle because as we all know, protein is how muscle recover and build up stronger. So without this, you will not be able to reach your goals. In conclusion, when bulking is done right, it doesn't need to be a complicated thing. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money, take a lot of time, or be bad for your health. If you follow the approach that I've laid out in this video, which is lean bulking, you'll be able to put on a lot of muscle and size in a short amount of time while not putting on a lot of fat, and you'll still feel healthy, feel great every day, and you'll have more muscle and be stronger in the gym. Thank you for watching. I hope you got some good takeaways from this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.